Dear friends, today we have with us two very special guests. We have the Consul General of India in Sydney, Mr. Manish Gupta, and his lovely and beautiful wife, Mrs Nimeesha Gupta, who is also a poet in her own right. Manish ji, Nimeesha ji, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Pallavi.
Ji, I want to begin by asking, what are your impressions of Australia? And before you were coming here, because you've traveled all around the world, did you have any impressions, and how has Australia been like?
My diplomatic career, each assignment is always a unique experience. In Australia also, we have really enjoyed it since we have been here. In fact, before coming here, I didn't fully realize the way our diaspora strength over here and really how well it plays a critical role in building a partnership between India and Australia. And the way our diaspora connects us to the wider Indian-Australian community as well as to the Australian masses. I think that's really been a bit of a revealing experience for me. And I must certainly add, that what you people do, we are really proud of your achievements.
Thank you so much. And Nimeesha ji, how has your experience been here, just generally living as, from someone who's come from India? How is general experience here in Australia?
I would just say incredible, because coming to Australia brings in your mind different thoughts about the natural beauty, about the landscape, about the multiculturalism of the city. And I think what I enjoyed the most here was the vibrant international atmosphere. And that is something that really connects the two countries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one could say that this is a very interesting time for Australia-India relations. One can see there's a lot of momentum in that relationship. So how do you see this relationship, and how important do you think is this relationship going to be in the larger geopolitical space in the world?
You see, when it comes to India and Australia, we have common values and shared interests. Always, the three C's, cricket, Commonwealth, curry, they come to mind as the popular narrative. But our relationship, I think, is much, much deeper than that. This is something we need to fully realize. It's a much deeper partnership. Even this consulate, this predates India's independence.
Absolutely.
And if you see the developments of the last few years, it's a very multifaceted bilateral engagement.
Mm-hmm. We
have extensive cooperation under the Quiet Framework. And earlier this year, we signed the Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement with Australia. I think this is a watershed moment for all of us. This speaks about the depth and expanse of our relationship, and there's a lot we all can do together. We have a strong convergence of interests also. We share the same vision of an open, free, inclusive Indo-Pacific region. And much deeper into this, if you look at our extent of our cooperation, be it trade, commerce, research, innovation, education, it's all over there. And I'm really happy to see we are also moving into the newer areas, where India also has critical strengths, like cyber security, cyber technologies, critical minerals where Australia is rich, the renewable and clean energy. These all are the things, where we can really work together, and we have extensive complementarities also to support this.
Sure. And when you were coming here, did you foresee that Australia would be this multicultural and have such a vibrant diaspora in terms of food and clothes and events and things like that? Or did that come as a bit of a surprise?
I think it was a bit of a surprise, because when you think about Australia, it looks like a far continent. But when you come here, you realize that it's such a happening city, and with such diversity in terms of natural landscapes. what I enjoy Australia the most is that within 1 kilometer drive, you have mountains, you have seas, you have forests. That
Yes.
makes it such a unique city, unique country as well. And also the type of the expat community, the range of expat community that is here is really striking. And so that brings a lot of cultural exchange in terms of food, art, dance, music, festivals, and that is something that I really enjoy being the spouse of a diplomat.
Yeah. And Manishi, you have often mentioned about the multicultural values of Australia. You've made that observation. Would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, you see, we always talk about the beautiful cultural mosaic of this great country. And if you look at countries around the world, you won't find too many countries, where you will have so much of freedoms, so much of means available to follow your own culture, your traditions, and at the same time, enriching the multicultural fabric of your host countries. And this is one great thing about Australia. Though we both have a chance to stay in United States, also in New York, but coming here, we didn't have an idea, and this is largely, I think, is built on the strength of our Indian diaspora. I think I have really experienced much more festivals over India than any other country we have been hosted earlier, and we have enjoyed each and every moment of it. But good thing is, they draw the wider Australian society into its narrative. And that's where, we also feel proud of. Like this year, we are celebrating India's 75th anniversary of independence. But when the New South Wales governments took the initiative and lit up the iconic Opera House in Indian tricolours, and it was a proud moment for all of us. It was historical first, but it was also acknowledgement of the contributions of our Indian Australian community, and how much we provide. You build bridges between India and Australia. And this is something I think we really need to build up. I can share with one more experience with you. We launched the Charkha and Karkha exhibition at the prestigious Powerhouse Museum. When we were working with the Powerhouse curatorial team, initially there were like streamlining the exhibition, getting the master weavers from India, handlooms. Somewhere we had this discussion, how much a master weaver can attract attraction. But I was surprised when the master weavers were here and the amount of interest the wider Australian society undertook in that. That was an eye-opener, revealing experience too. And even if you go there every day or every weekend, you see lots of school groups coming over there, young children interested to learn about the looms, about the Indian textiles. And this is something, is a big contribution that we all bring over.
Yeah, and talking about that, you're speaking about the diaspora, and you made a very interesting point that what you find here is the diaspora gets the wider community involved. In your opinion, how important a role has a diaspora played so far, and is going to play even in the future of India-Australia relations?
Look, I would like to make two very pointed observations. First, a large part of a diaspora's strength, if you look at this composition, is built on the strengths of our professionals, to a certain extent our students also, and each one of you doing quite well over here. And second point, we are also one of the fastest rising migrant communities in this country. So both these two things indicate, a very bright future for the Indian Australian community in this country. What I see, as our former president used to say, Kovindji, Ramnath Kovind, our former president used to say, diaspora is the living bridge that connects our two countries. And it is so true. Because you are the ones who are connecting us also to the wider Australian, not only the society, but the Australian industry also, and the Australian cultural milieu also. And And some of you, when you see the soft power, you see the effect, you see all over. If you go to the supermarket, you see so many Indian items over on display over there. This is also, that's how we are enriching, and bringing the two countries closer together.
And you have a lot of second generation Indian origin entrepreneurs in Australia. That's also quite a success story.
Yeah, and it's coming up. It's really doing pretty well. And my sense is, because I stayed in the United States also, probably this is a story, we are probably a decade down the lines. Our diaspora will be occupying the same prominent positions here in Australia, what we are doing in the United States right now.
Yes. And Nimeesha ji, what have your observations been in terms of the diaspora holding on to their traditions and culture, in terms of language, in terms of festivals, in terms of art, at the same time also, going into the 21st century, but how do you think have they preserved their cultural traditions here?
Oh, that's very interesting, Pallavi, what strikes me most here is the way the traditions and customs, the Australians, the Indian Australians, they are continuing with. Talking about practices, traditional practice, I would cite the example of yoga. Yoga here has gained so much momentum in these years that we really feel very proud to see how different organizations here, they are organizing yoga classes. And in fact, on the International Day of Yoga on 21st June, this year we did a massive yoga celebration at the town hall, and it was a footfall of 450 plus people who participated. And their participation, their enthusiasm and the passion for yoga shows that how much they care for their holistic well-being. Then also I see that in terms of language, as you mentioned, it's really very touching when we see that the young students, they are learning Hindi in their school, and even during HSC they are trying to do their exams in Hindi. So that's very encouraging for us. And also I think, as you mentioned about the different dances and the festivals, I see that the kind of diversity that the Indian community is displaying here in terms of the talent and artistic skills they have, it's quite encouraging for us.
Yeah, and in fact we have been covering a lot of these events. There was Onam celebration in the New South Wales Parliament. Then we covered the school who has been teaching Sanskrit here, a private school in Sydney that has been teaching Sanskrit for 37 years. So it's quite very fascinating.
It is, indeed, because you have the freedom, to pursue your mother tongue. That's really an important step, especially for our kids, to become a well-rounded citizen. They're linked to their roots. Now if you see, you can do here Hindi, I'm told Hindi, Tamil, Punjabi, already you can do up to HSC.
Yeah.
Sanskrit was always there, and there are other languages also where you can pursue at your own initiative.
Yeah.
And that's really good. For a multicultural, diverse country like us, I think it's a real plus.
Yeah, and I think speaking of diaspora, the diaspora itself is quite diverse here, but it's quite vibrant as well, I would say.
Yeah, I will try to fully agree with your observation, because it's like the microcosm of India. And I see it has come from all parts of India I have seen, and I think that's representative from the different cultural associations we have over here.
Yes.
And it's not only about our festivities also, some of them are really based on literature, some of them go into the traditional, apart from traditional festivities, even a few, they venture into sports and education also. In a way, it's really good for us.
Yeah. And just one last question to you, Ms. Manish ji, that where do you think work is required, in India-Australia relationship? Do you think that it's moving at a pace that, say, you're happy with, or you think that maybe a little more effort can be put so that it really gains a kind of momentum that we see, in some other relations, and really bring focus on this Indo-Aus relationship?
As I say earlier, we have a multifaceted engagement with Australia. One pillar of this relationship, that is the trade and economic partnership, I don't think so it has reached its full potential. And that's where we all need to work together, and our diaspora can really play a catalytic role. Because you are there well represented in all the fields. And the signing of the Ekta agreement, which in Hindi, if you see, it looks like unity, Ekta. So that's where I think it's really important for India and Australia to capitalize on the opportunities that are available. And it's set a whole bunch of complementarities and synergies that you see in this relationship. With very few countries, in our partnership where we see this sort of extensive synergies. Australia is rich in natural resources. Probably here is surplus capital also available over here. And on part of India, we need some of the resources for our own development. We have such a quality human capital base available with us. Some of our educational partnerships that we can do together. So sky is the limit, And we also need to factor in, we both have G20 countries also.
Yeah, because I think there's this aspiration that the bilateral trade should reach around $50 billion in the next 5-7 years. I think that is the aim. So hopefully we'll get there.
Yeah, I think so. We are on the right track. Even this year, we have done almost 6 months, and our bilateral trade is year on year up over 50%, more than 50%. Last year also, we have a massive jump in our bilateral trade. So things are moving in the right direction. The only thing is, we would like to diversify this trade basket for the perspective of both India as well as Australia.
And just to conclude, Nimeesha ji, you are a well-known poet. Everybody in the community knows that. So, जाते जाते आप एक अपनी कविता जरूर सुनाएं हमें.
Thank you, Pallavi. So actually I started writing poem here. I had already the passion of poem, but I started writing it during the time here for the past 2 years. The recent poem that I have written is Guldasta, and it's inspired by the spring season that we have here in Sydney right now.
Yeah, that's
the
beautiful.
you sweet flowers. So I've written this poem Guldasta. चंद फूलों को इकट्ठा कर बनता है एक खूबसूरत गुलदस्ता. खिला हुआ तो लगता ही है सुंदर, मुरझाए तो भी है सजता. जिंदगी भी कुछ ऐसी, कभी धूप कभी छाँव, कभी फूल कभी कांटे. खुशबू बिखेरते गले लगाते, गम और खुशी दोनों ही बांटे. सूखे फूलों को संभाले हैं प्यार और हिफाजत से किताबों में, उन सुनहरे पलों की यादों को जो बस मिलती हैं ख्वाबों में. गुलदस्ते के फूलों में नहीं होती कभी पहले खिलने की होड़, अधखिली कली भी साथ रहकर सबसे नाता लेती है जो. रंग बिरंगे फूलों को प्यार से चुनकर बनता है गुलदस्ता. रिश्ते भी कुछ यूं ही संवरते, गलियां अलग पर एक ही रास्ता. कोने में रखा गुलदस्ता महका देता है हर शाम, अपनों को साथ देता थोड़ा सुकून और आराम. फूल देता है जीते दिलों की सांसों को मुस्कुराने की वजह, वरना मरने पर तो गुलदस्ता रखकर निकल जाते हैं सब अपनी जगह. कहने को तो वो बस एक है अनजान गुलदस्ता, पर कुछ अधूरे अनकहे अल्फाजों का बेमिसाल रास्ता.
बहुत ही खूबसूरत. Thank you so much, Nimeesha ji, Manish ji. Thank you so much for taking out time and speaking with Australia today.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for joining
Thank
us.
you.